I'm sitting in the back seat of the third bus, my legs swollen and aching, clutching my small carry-on bag on my lap because there's no space left in the overhead compartment. 12 hours, 3 different buses. I counted every single dollar I saved over 4 months to afford this $340 round-trip ticket. I haven't owned a car since I sold my Honda Civic 2 years ago to pay for Dylan's last semester at Ohio State. But none of that matters right now. None of it. Because in less than an hour, I'm going to watch my son receive his engineering degree. My son, my Dylan, the boy I raised alone after his father walked out when he was 12 years old. The young man I worked 3 jobs for. The reason I moved from our 3-bedroom house in a decent neighborhood to a 1-bedroom apartment in Thornbury, a town so small most people have never heard of it. Every sacrifice, every missed meal, every night I cried myself to sleep worrying about money. It was all for this moment. I looked down at my outfit. It's the nicest thing I own. A navy blue dress I bought at Goodwill 3 years ago for $12. I pressed it carefully this morning at 4 a.m. before catching the first bus. My hands are rough and calloused from 20 years of cleaning commercial buildings, but I filed my nails and put on the 1 bottle of nail polish I own. I want to look decent. I want Dylan to be proud when he sees me in the audience. The woman next to me is eating fast food, and the smell makes my stomach growl. I didn't buy anything at the last stop because I'm trying to make the remaining $23 in my wallet last until I get home tomorrow. That's all I have left after buying this ticket. But it's fine. It's worth it. I'd go hungry for a week to see my boy graduate. The bus pulls into the Columbus station at 2:15 p.m. The ceremony starts at 5 p.m., according to the text Dylan sent me 3 weeks ago. I have almost 3 hours. Perfect. Enough time to find the campus, maybe grab a coffee if I can spare $3, use a restroom to freshen up, and find a good seat. My heart is racing as I step off the bus. Columbus is so much bigger than Thornbury. The buildings are tall, the streets are crowded, and everyone looks so polished and purposeful. I ask a young woman for directions to Ohio State, and she points me toward a bus stop. Another bus. That's fine. I'm used to buses. 40 minutes later, I'm walking through the campus. It's beautiful. Old brick buildings, students everywhere, spring flowers blooming. This is where my son spent 4 years of his life. This is where all those sacrifices went. I feel tears starting to form, but I blink them back. I need to stay composed. I need to look happy and proud, not like some emotional wreck. I pull out my phone and text Dylan. I'm here. Just got to campus. So excited to see you graduate. Where should I meet you? I wait, staring at my phone. 5 minutes pass. 10 minutes. He's probably busy with pre-ceremony preparations. That makes sense. I start walking toward the student center, following signs, hoping to spot someone who might know where the engineering graduates are gathering. Then I see him. My breath catches. There he is, my Dylan, standing near a parking lot, wearing his black graduation gown and cap. He's tall, handsome, looks so professional and grown up. My baby, 27 years old, and a college graduate with a degree in engineering. He's already gotten a job at a firm in Columbus, making $68,000 a year. More money than I've ever made in my entire life. I start walking faster, my legs protesting after 12 hours on buses, my carry-on bouncing against my hip. Dylan, I call out, waving. Dylan, honey? He turns. For a split second, I see something in his face. Surprise, maybe? Or is it annoyance? But that can't be right. He knew I was coming. I told him 4 months ago when he first mentioned the graduation date. I asked if I could come. He said yes. I reach him, breathless, and move to hug him. He takes a small step back. Mom, he says. His voice is flat. What are you doing here? The question confuses me. I'm still smiling, still reaching for him. What do you mean? I came for your graduation, honey. I told you I was coming. I took the buses, 3 buses. It was a long trip, but I'm here. He's looking at me with an expression I can't quite read. There's a young woman standing next to him, pretty, well-dressed in expensive-looking clothes, blonde hair perfectly styled. She's watching this interaction with barely concealed judgment in her eyes. Dylan glances at her, then back at me. "Mom," he says slowly, and now I can hear the irritation clearly in his voice. "You didn't need to come. The ceremony was yesterday." The words don't make sense at first. They're just sounds. I'm still smiling because my brain hasn't processed what he just said. "What?" "The graduation ceremony," he repeats, speaking to me like I'm a child who doesn't understand simple concepts. "It was yesterday. Saturday. I walked yesterday afternoon." I feel the ground shift under my feet. My carry-on bag slips from my shoulder and hits the pavement. But you said Sunday. You texted me 3 weeks ago. You said Sunday at 5 p.m. He shakes his head, and I see something in his eyes, not regret, not apology, just impatience. "I told you Saturday, Mom. You must have gotten confused." "No." My voice comes out stronger than I expected. "No, Dylan. I have the text. You said Sunday, May 12th at 5 p.m. I saved it. I've been looking at it for weeks." The blonde woman touches his arm gently. "Babe, we need to get going. The brunch reservation is at 3. Babe. She called him Babe. This must be Amber, the girlfriend he mentioned a few times in our brief phone conversations over the past 6 months. The one he's never introduced me to. The one whose Instagram I've looked at late at night, seeing pictures of her and Dylan at nice restaurants, on weekend trips to Lake Erie, at parties with beautiful people in beautiful clothes. Dylan looks at Amber, then back at me. "Look, Mom, I'm sorry you came all this way, but there's nothing happening today. The ceremony is over. I already walked. Dad was there, and Amber's parents, and—" "Your father?" The words come out sharper than I intended. "Your father was there?" Kevin was there. Kevin, who left us 15 years ago with $847 in our joint checking account and a note on the kitchen table saying he couldn't do this anymore. Kevin, who paid a total of maybe $11,000 in child support over 15 years because he kept switching jobs to avoid wage garnishments. Kevin, who missed every birthday, every Christmas, every parent-teacher conference, every middle-of-the-night emergency room visit. That Kevin was at my son's graduation. Dylan's jaw tightens. "Yeah, Dad came. We've been rebuilding our relationship. He's changed, Mom. He's really trying." I want to scream. I want to shake my son and ask him if he remembers who paid for his school supplies, his clothes, his food, his college tuition. I want to ask him if he remembers who held him when he cried for weeks after Kevin left. I want to remind him that I sold our house, our home, to keep him in college. But I don't say any of that. Instead, I hear myself say, in a voice that sounds very far away, "You knew I was coming today." It's not a question, it's a statement. Because suddenly, I know. I know with absolute certainty that Dylan knew exactly what day the ceremony was, and he knew I would show up a day late. He has the decency to look away. I figured you'd realize and check. I thought you'd confirm closer to the date." "I texted you yesterday morning," I say quietly. I said, "So excited for tomorrow. Can't wait to see you walk." You read it. You didn't respond. Amber shifts uncomfortably. Even she seems to realize this is bad. But Dylan just shrugs. "I was busy with family stuff. Dad took us all out to dinner after the ceremony." Us all. Dad, Amber's parents, a whole celebration that didn't include me, the woman who raised him, the woman who gave up everything so he could have this degree. "Dylan," I say, and I hate how my voice cracks. "I saved for 4 months to buy this bus ticket. I traveled 12 hours. I'm wearing my best dress. I came here to watch you graduate. I know and I appreciate it, Mom. But honestly," he stops, and I can see him choosing his words carefully. "You didn't really need to come. It's not that big of a deal. It's just a ceremony. Just a ceremony. The culmination of 4 years of college that I paid for by cleaning toilets and scrubbing floors and living in a tiny apartment and never buying anything new for myself. Just a ceremony. We really need to go, Amber says again, more insistently this time. The reservation is at Lindy's, and they don't hold tables. Lindy's. That's the expensive restaurant in German Village. I've seen it mentioned in the Columbus tourism websites I looked at last week, imagining maybe Dylan and I could grab a coffee somewhere after the ceremony. A meal there probably costs more than I make in a day. Dylan nods at her, then looks back at me. Listen, I've got to run. There's a celebration brunch thing. But hey, it was good seeing you. Text me when you get home safe, okay? He's already turning away, already walking toward a silver Audi parked nearby, Amber's car, presumably. He's leaving me standing here in a parking lot with my cheap carry-on bag and my Goodwill dress and my swollen feet. Dylan, I call after him. My voice sounds strange. When are you coming home to visit? He opens the passenger door of the Audi. I don't know, Mom. I'm pretty busy with work. We'll figure something out. We'll figure something out. The same thing he's been saying for 6 months. The same empty promise. Maybe for your birthday. I try again. I could make your favorite. That pot roast you always loved. Mom. Now there's definite irritation in his voice. I really have to go. We'll talk later, okay? And then he's in the car. Amber starts the engine. I watch the silver Audi pull out of the parking space and drive away. And I'm left standing there alone in a campus parking lot, 340 miles from home, having missed my son's graduation that he deliberately didn't tell me about. I swallow hard. My throat feels tight, like there's a fist squeezed around it. I will not cry here. I will not fall apart in public. I pick up my bag and start walking back toward the bus stop. My legs hurt. My feet hurt. Everything hurts. I pull out my phone and look at the bus schedule. There's one leaving for Thornbury in 2 hours. Then another connection. Then another. 12 more hours. I'll get home around 4 a.m. As I walk, I open my text messages and scroll back to find the conversation with Dylan from 3 weeks ago. There it is. His message. Graduation is Sunday, May 12th at 5 p.m. You should come. I take a screenshot. I don't know why. Maybe because I need proof that I'm not crazy, that I didn't get confused, that my son lied to me. I sit on a bench near the bus stop and stare at my phone. The lock screen photo is from 8 years ago. Dylan at 19, his arm around my shoulders, both of us grinning at the camera during his first year of college. He looks so young, so happy, so grateful. When did that change? When did I become someone he's embarrassed of? Someone he deliberately excludes from important moments in his life? I think about Kevin being there. Kevin, who couldn't be bothered to show up for 15 years but somehow earned a spot at the graduation ceremony and the celebration dinner. Kevin, who's apparently changed and is really trying. The betrayal tastes bitter in my mouth. Not just from Dylan, but from the universe itself. This isn't how it was supposed to go. I did everything right. I sacrificed everything. I was a good mother. I worked myself to exhaustion. I gave him every opportunity. And this is what I get. A dismissive, "You didn't need to come," in a parking lot. My phone buzzes. For one desperate second, I think it's Dylan texting to apologize, to explain, to invite me to the brunch after all. It's not. It's a notification from my bank app. My account balance, $23.47. That's all I have until my next payment from a client comes in next week. I spent $340 on bus tickets. I spent 4 months saving. I spent 12 hours traveling. And I'm going to spend 12 more hours going back home, all for a graduation ceremony that happened yesterday. I close my eyes and take a deep breath. Then another. I will not cry. I will hold myself together. I will get on that bus, and I will go home, and I will pretend this never happened. But even as I think that, I know it's not true. Something shifted today. Something broke. And I don't think I can pretend anymore. If you had met me 20 years ago, you probably wouldn't recognize the woman I was back then. I wasn't this tired, careful version of myself who checks every price tag twice and measures every decision by how it might affect her retirement. Back then, I still believed that love and hard work were enough to keep a family together. I was 36 when everything fell apart. Dylan was 12, Kevin was 43, and already halfway out the door, though I didn't see it at the time. Or maybe I refused to see it. Kevin and I met in our 20s, working at the same grocery store in a small town outside Cleveland. He was charming in that easy, boyish way, always making jokes, always talking about his big plans. I fell for him because he made the world feel lighter. I came from a family where money was always tight and arguments were always loud. Kevin was the opposite of that. He laughed easily. He didn't seem bothered by anything. We got married when I was 25. Dylan came along 2 years later. For a while, it felt like we were building something good. We didn't have much, but we had enough. A small rental house, a used car, cheap vacations to state parks where Dylan could run around, and we could grill hot dogs on rusted public grills. I worked part-time as a receptionist at a dentist's office, and Kevin bounced from job to job, sales, construction, warehouse work. He always said he was figuring things out. The first time I realized that figuring things out was just another way of saying, I don't want to grow up, was when Dylan was about 10. It was a Tuesday night, and I was sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of overdue bills. Kevin walked in with a brand new flat-screen TV he'd bought on credit. "Look what I got on sale," he said, grinning like a kid at Christmas. "We needed an upgrade. The game will look amazing on this." I stared at the TV, then at the past due notice from the electric company in my hand. "Kevin, how did you pay for this?" I asked. He shrugged. "Store credit. 0 interest for 12 months. Chill, Lorraine. You worry too much." "I worry because someone has to," I snapped. I remember my voice shaking. "We're already behind on the electric bill. The rent is due Friday. Dylan needs new shoes for school. We don't need a new TV." He rolled his eyes. "You're always so negative. Can't we have something nice for once? I work hard too, you know." I wanted to argue. I wanted to say that working hard meant staying in a job for more than 6 months at a time, not quitting every time a boss told you to show up on time. But I looked over at Dylan, sitting at the table doing his homework, and I swallowed the words. I didn't want him to hear us fight again. That was my pattern for years, swallowing words to keep the peace. The night Kevin left, it was raining. I remember that because the sound of the rain on the roof was the only thing that kept me from hearing the door close behind him. We'd had another argument about money. I had just found out that he'd taken $600 out of our joint account without telling me to invest in some half-baked business idea with a friend. Meanwhile, I'd been rationing groceries and putting off my own dental appointment for the 3rd year in a row because we couldn't afford it. I confronted him in the kitchen. "We had $847 in that account, Kevin. That was supposed to cover the mortgage and the utilities. You didn't even tell me." He leaned against the counter, arms crossed, looking at me like I was the problem. "I told you, this is an opportunity. Sam's starting a detailing business. With a little cash, we can double or triple it in a few months." "We don't need to double or triple anything in a few months," I shot back. "We need to pay the mortgage this week. We need to keep the lights on. We need food in the fridge." He smirked. "You're so small-minded, Lorraine. This is exactly why I never tell you anything. You can't see the big picture." "The big picture?" I could feel my face getting hot. "The big picture is that we have a 12-year-old son who needs stability. The big picture is that I'm juggling overdue bills while you're gambling our savings on your buddy's big ideas." He slammed his hand on the counter, making me jump. "I'm tired of this. I am tired of being treated like some kind of screw-up. I'm doing my best." "Your best isn't good enough," I said quietly. Those words came out before I could stop them. The silence that followed was heavy. He stared at me, eyes cold in a way I'd never seen before. Then he nodded once, like he'd just made up his mind. "Yeah," he said. "Well, maybe you'll be better off without my best." He walked past me. For a second, I thought he was going to the bedroom to cool off. Instead, he went straight to the front door, grabbed his keys, and left. I didn't understand what was happening until I walked into the kitchen the next morning and saw the note on the table. "I can't do this anymore. I'm not built for this kind of life. I'll send money when I can. Kevin." That was it. No explanation. No apology. Just a scribbled sentence and a promise he barely kept. Dylan found me standing there with the note in my hand. "Mom," he said, voice thick with sleep. "Where's Dad?" I turned around, and something inside me broke when I saw his face, his father's eyes, his father's jawline, his father's confused expression. For a brief, shameful moment, I wanted to scream at him, to tell him it was his father's fault, that I had done everything I could, and it still wasn't enough. Instead, I walked over, knelt in front of him, and pulled him into a hug. "Your dad. He needs some time," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "But I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I promise you that." That was the first promise I ever made to Dylan that I refused to break, no matter what it cost me. What followed were the hardest years of my life. Kevin sent money occasionally, $100 here, $200 there, but it was never consistent, never enough. I couldn't rely on it. So I stopped trying. I picked up extra hours at the dentist's office. When that still wasn't enough, I started cleaning houses on the weekends. A friend of a friend needed someone to clean their office once a week after hours, and I took that too. I was exhausted all the time, but giving up was not an option. There was one night in particular that I'll never forget. I was scrubbing the floors of a law office at midnight, my back screaming in protest, when I glanced up and saw my reflection in the darkened window. I didn't recognize the woman staring back at me. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, dark circles under her eyes, shoulders slumped. I remember whispering to myself, "This is temporary. You're doing this for him. One day, he'll understand." I clung to that thought like a lifeline. When Dylan started middle school, he struggled. He missed his dad. He acted out. His grades slipped. He got into a fight once with a kid who made a joke about kids with no dads. I was called into the principal's office, and I remember sitting there, feeling ashamed and defensive and furious all at once. On the way home, I tried to talk to him. "You can't hit people, Dylan. That's not how we handle things." He stared out the car window. "He said you chased Dad away. He said you're crazy and that's why he left." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Who told him that?" I asked quietly. "Dad," he mumbled. "He told his girlfriend, and she told her nephew, and he told everyone at school." I had to pull the car over because I couldn't see through my tears. "Listen to me," I said, turning to face him. "Your father left because he made choices. His choices, not mine. I may not be perfect, but I fought to keep this family together. I fought for both of you. Do you understand?" He didn't answer. He just stared at his lap. That night, after he went to bed, I made another promise to myself. Whatever happened, I would make sure Dylan had opportunities. I didn't care if I had to work myself into the ground. I would not let my son's life be defined by his father's failures. That promise is what led to the biggest decision I ever made, starting my own cleaning business. I was 48 when I finally quit the dentist's office and turned my side jobs into an actual company. Caldwell Commercial Cleaning started with 2 office buildings, 3 old vacuum cleaners, and a handful of used mops I bought at a liquidation sale. The first year was brutal. I did everything: sales calls, cleaning, invoicing, bookkeeping. I'd work from 7 a.m. until midnight most days, stopping only to make dinner for Dylan and ask how his day was. He'd sit at the kitchen table with his laptop doing homework while I sorted invoices next to him. "Mom, you should hire someone," he said once, watching me rub my temples. "I will," I promised, "as soon as I can afford it." Slowly, it started to pay off. Word of mouth spread. I picked up more contracts, medical offices, a small manufacturing plant, a church. I hired 2 part-time employees, then 4. For the first time in years, I felt something like hope. By the time Dylan was a senior in high school, business was steady. Not glamorous, not luxurious, but steady. I was making enough money to pay the mortgage, keep food on the table, and even set a little aside each month. Then Dylan came home one afternoon with a letter in his hand and tears in his eyes. "Mom," he said, voice shaking. I got into Ohio State." I took the letter from him with trembling hands and read it 3 times. "We are pleased to offer you admission." My eyes blurred before I could finish. He wrapped his arms around me. "I did it, Mom. We did it." I laughed through my tears. "You did it, honey. You worked hard. You deserve this." What I didn't say was that my stomach had dropped when I saw the tuition costs online later that night. $28,000 a year. And that was just tuition. Housing, books, meals, all extra. I sat at the kitchen table with my calculator and my notebook, running numbers over and over. My savings were modest. The business was doing well, but it wasn't some massive cash cow. I had employees to pay, equipment to maintain. Insurance, taxes. I could have told him no. I could have said, "We can't afford this. You'll have to go to community college first, or work for a few years." That would have been reasonable. It would have been practical. But I remembered being 18 and having dreams that died because no one was willing or able to invest in them. I remembered promising myself that my child would not face the same thing. So instead of saying no, I started thinking of what I could sell. The answer came to me one night as I walked through our house, turning off lights. My gaze lingered on the family photos on the wall, the Christmas tree in the corner, Dylan standing in front of the fireplace on his first day of school. This house had been our home for 12 years. It was where Dylan took his first steps, where Kevin had carried him to bed on his shoulders, where I had stayed up late sewing Halloween costumes. It was also the only real asset I had. I met with a real estate agent a week later. Within 2 months, the house was sold. After paying off the mortgage, I had just enough left to cover Dylan's first year of tuition, deposit money into a payment plan for the second year, and move us into a 1-bedroom apartment in Thornbury. "Mom, we didn't have to sell the house," Dylan said when I told him. "Yes, we did," I replied. "This is your future. The house is just walls and a roof. You're what matters." He hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "I'll make you proud, I promise." For a while he did. He worked hard. His grades were good. He called me often during his first year of college, sometimes 3-4 times a week. He'd tell me about his classes, his professors, the weird guy in his dorm who left dirty dishes everywhere. "Mom, you won't believe how big the library is," he said once, laughing. "I got lost for 20 minutes. "I believe it," I replied, smiling so hard my cheeks hurt. "Just don't forget to eat, and sleep, and do your laundry." Yeah, he said. "Love you." "Love you more," I answered, hanging on to those words like a lifeline. I worked even harder to keep up with the costs. When tuition went up, I took out a line of credit using my business as collateral. When his laptop broke, I picked up an extra weekend contract. When he needed money for textbooks, I skipped my own doctor's appointment again. I thought it was temporary. I truly believed that once he graduated and got a good job, things would ease up. That somehow, the universe would reward all this sacrifice. But something started to change around his second year of college. The calls became less frequent, the conversations shorter. When I asked questions, he sounded impatient, like I was bothering him. "Hey, just checking in," I said once after not hearing from him for 2 weeks. "How are classes? Are you eating okay? Do you need anything?" "I'm fine, Mom," he answered, distracted. I could hear noise in the background, voices, music. I'm at a study group. Can we talk later? Sure, just wanted to hear your voice. Yeah, I'll call you. Sometimes he did. More often he didn't. By his third year, he had a new circle of friends, kids from wealthier families, judging by their social media. Trips to Florida on spring break, weekends in Chicago, dinners at restaurants I'd only ever seen on TV. When we talked, he started making comments that stung. "Mom, you don't have to tell people you own a cleaning company," he said once. "You could just say you run a facility services business. It sounds more professional." I laughed it off. "Well, it is a cleaning company. I'm not ashamed of it." "I know, it's just, some people can be weird about that." Some people. I wondered if he meant his friends, or Amber. The first time he mentioned her, his voice had that glow in it I recognized instantly. "There's this girl in my engineering economics class," he said. "Her name's Amber. She's different." "Different how?" I asked, smiling. "She's smart and confident. Her dad runs some big construction firm in Columbus. She grew up around this stuff, you know? Money, business, investments. She really gets it." I tried to be happy for him. "She sounds nice. I'd love to meet her someday." "Yeah," he said. Maybe. Maybe became his favorite word whenever I brought up visits, holidays, or meeting the people in his life. "Maybe next semester, Mom. Maybe when things slow down. Maybe when I'm not so busy with work." Every time he said it, it felt like another little piece of the bond we had was being shaved off. Still, I kept going. I kept paying. I kept believing that once he graduated, once the dust settled, we'd find our way back to each other. I didn't know then that the graduation itself would be the moment I realized just how far apart we'd grown, and how much of that distance I'd helped create by never, ever saying no. The 12-hour bus ride back to Thornbury is the longest night of my life. I don't sleep. I stare out the window at the darkness and replay Dylan's voice in my head over and over. "You didn't need to come. The ceremony was yesterday." I arrive home at 4:17 a.m., exhausted to my bones. My one-bedroom apartment feels smaller than usual. The silence is deafening. I drop my bag by the door and collapse onto my bed without even taking off my shoes. When I wake up 5 hours later, the first thing I do is check my phone. Some small, desperate part of me still hopes Dylan sent an apology. Maybe he realized how cruel he'd been. Maybe he felt guilty. There's nothing. No missed calls, no texts. I shower and get ready for work because Monday doesn't care about broken hearts. My schedule is full. 3 commercial buildings to supervise, payroll to process, a new client meeting at 2 p.m. I'm the owner. I can't afford to fall apart. Rita calls me around noon while I'm driving between job sites. Rita Morales has been my best friend for 8 years. We met when I bid on a cleaning contract for the accounting firm where she worked as a senior accountant before she retired. She's 62, sharp as a tack, and has zero patience for nonsense. "How was the graduation?" she asks, cheerful. I pull into a parking lot and put the car in park. For a moment, I consider lying. But Rita can always tell when I'm lying. "It was yesterday," I say quietly. "What?" "The ceremony. It was Saturday. Dylan told me it was Sunday. I showed up a day late." The silence on the other end is heavy. Then, "Are you telling me that boy knew you were traveling 12 hours and didn't bother to correct you?" "He knew," I confirm. "I texted him the day before saying I was excited for tomorrow. He read it and didn't respond." "Lorraine," Rita's voice is tight with anger. "Please tell me you're not making excuses for him." "I'm not making excuses. I don't know what I am." My voice cracks. "I spent $340 on that trip, Rita. 4 months of saving. And he looked at me like I was an inconvenience." "Where are you right now?" "In my car. I have a meeting in an hour." "Cancel it. I'm coming over tonight." "We're talking about this." I want to argue, but I don't have the energy. "Okay," I whisper. Rita shows up at my apartment at 7 p.m. with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. I'm not much of a drinker, but tonight I pour myself a glass without hesitation. We sit on my worn-out couch, and I tell her everything. The parking lot, Amber, Kevin being at the graduation, the brunch at Lindy's that I wasn't invited to, every humiliating detail. When I finish, Rita sets down her wine glass and looks at me with an expression I can't quite read. How long has it been since Dylan called you just to talk? Not to ask for something, just to talk. I open my mouth to answer, then close it. I think back through the last year of phone calls and texts. I don't know, I admit. I do, Rita says, because every time I ask you about him, you tell me how busy he is, how stressed he is with school and work. You make excuses. But Lorraine, when was the last time he asked how you are? When was the last time he asked about your business, your health, your life? I stare down at my hands. They're red and rough from years of cleaning solutions and hard work. I can't remember the last time Dylan asked me a single personal question. He's young, I say weakly. He's focused on building his career. I was the same way at his age. Were you, though? Rita challenges. When you were 27, you were raising a child alone and working 3 jobs. You didn't have time to be selfish. Dylan has every advantage you never had, and he's using it to pretend you don't exist. Her words sting because they're true. He's my son, I say, and my voice breaks. I love him. What am I supposed to do? Cut him off? I'm not saying cut him off. I'm saying stop sacrificing yourself for someone who doesn't appreciate it. You sold your house for him, Lorraine. You took out loans. You work yourself sick. And what does he do? He humiliates you in a parking lot and doesn't even apologize. I want to defend Dylan. I want to say she doesn't understand. But the truth is, she understands perfectly. She sees what I've been refusing to see. We spend the rest of the night talking, and for the first time in years, I let myself admit out loud that I'm hurt, that I'm tired, that I don't know how much more I can give. When Rita leaves around 11 p.m., she hugs me tight. You deserve better than this, she says. Don't forget that. I spend the next 3 weeks in a strange kind of limbo. I go through the motions of my daily life, working, paying bills, managing my employees, but I feel disconnected from everything. I check my phone compulsively, waiting for Dylan to reach out, waiting for an apology that never comes. I try calling him twice. The first time, it goes to voicemail. I leave a message. Hi, honey, just checking in. Hope you're doing well. Love you. He doesn't call back. The second time he answers, but he sounds distracted. Hey, Mom, I'm in the middle of something. Can I call you back later? Sure, I say. When? I don't know. Soon. I'll text you. He doesn't text. He doesn't call. I send a few messages over the following days. Simple things. Thinking of you. Hope work is going well. Love you. His responses are brief. Thanks. Busy. Talk soon. Every short, dismissive message feels like a tiny rejection. I tell myself he's just overwhelmed with his new job, that he'll come around, that I need to be patient. But the truth is harder to ignore with every passing day. My son doesn't want to talk to me. Then, 3 weeks and 2 days after the graduation, my phone buzzes with a text from Dylan. My heart leaps. Finally. I open the message. Hey, Mom, quick question. Did you make that loan appointment yet? I stare at the screen, confused. Loan appointment? What is he talking about? I scroll up through our message history, searching for context. Nothing. We haven't discussed any loan. I text back. What loan? The response comes quickly. For the apartment, I told you about it a few weeks ago. Me and Amber found a perfect place, but we need help with the down payment. $60,000. You said you'd look into using the business as collateral. I read the message 3 times. He told me? I have no memory of this conversation. I scroll further back through our texts. There's nothing. No mention of an apartment, no mention of a loan, no mention of $60,000. My hands start to shake. I call him. It rings 4 times before he picks up. "Hey," he says, casual. "Dylan, when did we talk about this loan?" I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. "I don't know, a few weeks ago. I mentioned it when we were texting. I don't have any record of that conversation. Can you tell me when exactly you brought this up?" He sighs, impatient. "Mom, does it really matter? I'm asking now. Amber and I found a condo in German Village. It's $285,000, which is a steal for that neighborhood. We need $60,000 for the down payment plus closing costs. I figured you could take out a loan using Caldwell Cleaning as collateral. You've done that before, right?" My mind is reeling. He's talking like this is a simple, obvious favor, like I'm supposed to just hand over $60,000. "Dylan, that's a huge amount of money," I say carefully. "I can't just—" "Mom, it's an investment," he interrupts. "Property values in German Village are going up. This is a smart move, and it's not like I'm asking you to give me the money. It's a loan. I'll pay you back." "When?" I ask. "What? When will you pay me back? What's the timeline?" There's a pause. "I don't know, like, over time. Once I'm more established in my career. Come on, Mom. You know how this works. You took out loans to start your business. This is the same thing." It's not the same thing at all, but I don't say that. "Dylan, if I take out a $60,000 loan using my business as collateral, I'll be paying it off for years. And that's assuming I can even get approved. The business is already leveraged. I still owe $95,000 from the loan I took to pay for your last year of tuition. So refinance," he says, like it's that simple. "Look, Amber's parents are helping with some of it, but they're not covering the whole thing. I need this, Mom. We need to move fast, or we'll lose the place." I close my eyes. "How much are Amber's parents contributing?" "That's not really relevant," he says, defensive. "Dylan, I'm asking you a question." Another pause. "They're covering the realtor fees and some furniture, but they already helped Amber with her student loans and her car, so they can't do more right now." So Amber's parents, who, based on Dylan's description, are significantly wealthier than I am, are contributing a fraction of what Dylan is asking me to provide. "I need to think about this," I say. "What's there to think about?" He sounds annoyed now. "I'm your son. I'm asking for help. Isn't that what parents do?" The words hit me like a slap. Isn't that what parents do? "Dylan, I have helped you," I say, and for the first time, there's an edge to my voice. "I sold my house so you could go to college. I took out loans. I worked myself to exhaustion. I've given you everything I have." "And I appreciate that," he says, but his tone suggests otherwise. "But this is different. This is about my future. Me and Amber are building a life together. Don't you want that for me?" "Of course I do. But Dylan, I also have to think about my own future. I'm 56 years old. I don't have a retirement fund. I don't own a home. If I take out another massive loan, I'll be working until I'm 70 just to pay it off." "You're being dramatic," he says flatly. The words stop me cold. Dramatic. "I have to go," I say. "I'll call you later." "Wait, so are you doing the loan or not? I need an answer by Friday. The sellers want a decision." I said I'll call you later. I hang up before he can respond. My hands are shaking so hard I almost drop the phone. I sit in silence for a long time, staring at nothing. Then I do something I haven't done in years. I cry. Not quiet tears. Full body-shaking sobs that leave me gasping for air. When I finally calm down, I call Rita. "He asked you for how much?" Rita's voice is sharp with disbelief when I tell her. $60,000, I repeat, using my business as collateral, and he wants an answer by Friday. That boy has lost his mind. "He said it's what parents do," I say, my voice hollow. "He said I'm being dramatic." Rita is quiet for a moment. Then, "Lorraine, I need to tell you something." I didn't want to say anything before because I didn't want to hurt you, but you need to know. My stomach drops. What? 2 months ago, I was in Columbus visiting my niece. We went to lunch at this little bistro downtown, and I saw Dylan. He was with a man, older guy, maybe late 50s. They were laughing, talking, very comfortable with each other. At first I thought maybe it was a work colleague or something. But then the guy paid for lunch and hugged Dylan before they left. And Lorraine, I'm pretty sure it was Kevin. The room tilts. What? I didn't get a close look, but the resemblance was there. Same build, same mannerisms. And Dylan called him Dad when they were leaving. I heard it. I feel like I've been punched in the chest. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want to hurt you, and I wasn't completely sure. But now, with everything happening, I think you need to know that Kevin is back in Dylan's life, and I don't think it's a good influence. I remember Dylan's words at the graduation. Dad was there. We've been rebuilding our relationship. He's changed. Kevin, the man who abandoned us, the man who paid a pittance in child support, the man who missed 15 years of Dylan's life. That man is suddenly back, and apparently, he's been filling Dylan's head with God knows what. I need to talk to Dylan, I say. What are you going to say? I don't know, but I can't just ignore this. I call Dylan that night. He answers on the third ring. Hey, Mom, did you think about the loan? I want to talk about your father, I say. Silence. What about him? Dylan's voice is guarded. Are you seeing him regularly? Why does it matter? Because it matters to me. Dylan, your father walked out on us 15 years ago. He barely paid child support. He missed every important moment of your life. And now he's suddenly back, and you're having lunch with him, inviting him to your graduation. I just want to understand. He's my father, Dylan says defensively. He made mistakes, yeah, but he's trying to make up for it. He's been honest with me about what happened, about how hard the marriage was, how you made it impossible for him to stay. I feel my blood run cold. How I made it impossible. He said you were controlling, that you micromanaged everything, criticized him constantly, that he felt suffocated. I'm gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles are white. Dylan, your father left because he didn't want the responsibility of a family. He walked out with almost no explanation and barely contributed to raising you. I worked 3 jobs to keep a roof over our heads. I sold our house so you could go to college. That's the truth. That's your version, Dylan says coldly. Dad has his version too. And honestly, Mom, some of the things he said make sense. You do try to control everything. You've always been like that. Control everything? My voice is shaking. Dylan, I worked myself to the bone to give you opportunities. That's not control. That's love. Is it, though? Or did you do it so you could hold it over me? The accusation is so shocking, so unfair, that for a moment I can't speak. Dad said you'd react like this, Dylan continues. He said you use guilt and money to manipulate people, to keep them dependent on you. I'm shaking now, fury and heartbreak colliding in my chest. Your father is rewriting history to make himself look better. He abandoned you, Dylan. I stayed. I fought. I sacrificed everything. Maybe you sacrificed too much, Dylan says. Maybe that's the problem. You made your whole life about me, and now you expect me to, I don't know, owe you something. That's not fair, Mom. I feel like I'm drowning. I don't expect you to owe me anything. I just expected respect, gratitude, love. I do love you, he says, but his voice is flat, emotionless. But I also need space. I need to build my own life. And honestly, you calling me about Dad feels like you're trying to control who I have a relationship with. That's exactly what he said you'd do. Dylan, look, I have to go. Amber's here. We're going over paperwork for the condo. Let me know about the loan by Friday, okay? He hangs up before I can respond. I sit in my dark apartment, phone in my hand, tears streaming down my face. This is not my son. The boy I raised would never speak to me this way. Kevin has poisoned him, turned him against me, rewritten 15 years of history. And the worst part? Dylan believes him. Rita comes over the next morning without calling first. She takes one look at my face and pulls me into a hug. "Tell me what happened," she says. I tell her everything. The phone call, Kevin's lies, Dylan's accusations, the ugliness of it all. When I finish, Rita sits back and looks at me with an expression I've never seen before. Fierce, protective, angry. "Lorraine, I'm going to say something, and I need you to really hear me. Are you listening?" I nod. "You need to say no to that loan. You need to set a boundary. Because if you don't, this will never stop. Dylan will keep asking, keep taking, keep believing that you owe him. And 20 years from now, you'll be broke, exhausted, and alone, and he still won't appreciate what you did." "He's my son," I whisper. "I know, and that's why this is so hard. But Lorraine, loving someone doesn't mean destroying yourself for them. You've given him everything. You've sacrificed everything. And he's throwing it back in your face. At some point, you have to love yourself enough to stop." I know she's right. Deep down, in the part of myself I've been ignoring for years, I know she's right. But knowing it and doing it are two very different things. The day I reach my breaking point starts like any other Tuesday. I wake up at 5:30 a.m., make coffee in my chipped white mug, and sit at my small kitchen table with my planner open, reviewing the schedule for Caldwell Commercial Cleaning. 3 offices, 1 medical clinic, payroll to approve, an equipment repair to arrange. Life goes on, even when your heart is cracked down the middle. But underneath the routine, something is different. For the first time in years, I'm not automatically planning my day around what Dylan might need. I'm not mentally setting aside money just in case he calls. Instead, my thoughts keep circling back to Rita's words. "You need to love yourself enough to stop." They replay in my head as I sip my coffee, as I drive to the first building, as I walk through the empty halls checking supply closets and vacuum lines in the carpet. By mid-morning, the words have turned into a quiet question I can't ignore anymore. When was the last time I made a decision that was purely for me? Not for Dylan. Not for the business. Not out of guilt or obligation. Just for me. Lorraine. The woman who exists outside of mom and owner and provider. I can't remember. At lunchtime, I sit in my car in the parking lot of the medical clinic with a ham sandwich on my lap and my bank app open on my phone. The numbers stare back at me, unforgiving. Checking, $1,382. Savings, $14,207. Business account, enough to cover payroll and expenses, but not much more. I think about the $95,000 still outstanding on the business loan I took to pay for Dylan's final year of college. I think about my age, 56. I think about the fact that I don't own a house, don't have a retirement plan, don't have a partner to share the load. If I take out another $60,000 loan, I will be buried in debt well into my 70s, maybe longer. And for what? So my son can impress his girlfriend with a condo in a trendy neighborhood? I close the app and set my phone aside. My sandwich sits untouched. My stomach is in knots anyway. That evening, after I've finished my rounds and my employees have gone home, I find myself standing in the middle of the office of my business, the small space I rented 3 years ago so I could stop running everything out of my apartment. The desks are empty. The cleaning supplies are neatly stacked on shelves in the back room. The Caldwell Commercial Cleaning sign hangs above the door, a simple black and white logo I designed myself. I walk slowly through the space, running my hand along the back of the office chairs, the edge of the reception counter. This place exists because of me, because I refused to give up, because I worked every hour I could to build something out of nothing. This business is my security, my stability, my proof that I'm capable. And for years I've treated it like a tool, a means to an end for Dylan's success. For the first time, I see it as mine. The realization settles over me like a warm, heavy blanket. My business is not just some endless well I can draw from whenever my son asks. It's my future, my safety net, my life's work, and I feel deep in my bones that I can't risk it. Not this time. On Thursday night, the day before Dylan's deadline, Rita comes over again. She brings her laptop and a stack of financial documents. "We're going to look at this like a business decision," she says, setting everything down on my kitchen table. Not like a mother trying to save her child, like an owner protecting her company. I want to tell her I don't need to see the numbers, that I've already made up my mind. But the truth is, seeing it on paper makes it harder to lie to myself. We go through everything. My income, my debts, my age, my lack of retirement savings. The realistic timeline for paying off another $60,000 loan, plus interest. Best case scenario, Rita says, tapping her calculator. You'd be working full-time until you're at least 72. And that's assuming no major health problems, no economic downturns, no lost contracts. One bad year, and you could lose the business entirely. I stare at the numbers. If I lost the business, you'd have almost nothing, she finishes softly. You'd be starting over at 60, competing with people half your age for hourly jobs with no benefits. Lorraine, you can't afford this. Not financially, not emotionally. I nod slowly. I know. She closes the laptop and looks at me. So, what are you going to do? I take a deep breath. I've been avoiding this moment, even as I knew it was coming. But now there's no more space to hide in. No more justifying, no more maybe. I'm going to tell him no, I say. The words feel strange and powerful in my mouth. I'm going to say no to the loan. Rita's eyes soften with pride. Good. And what else? I frown. What do you mean, what else? Lorraine, this isn't just about the loan. This is about a pattern, about years of you saying yes when it hurts you. What are you going to do about that? I look down at my hands, then back up at her. My voice is barely above a whisper. I think I need to set some boundaries. Yes, you do, she says. And you need to say them out loud, clearly. No hinting, no hoping he'll get it. You have to spell it out. That night, after Rita leaves, I sit at my little kitchen table with a blank notebook in front of me. I pick up a pen and start writing, not worrying about perfect sentences or pretty words. Just truth. I write down every sacrifice I've made for Dylan, every loan, every extra contract, every missed vacation, every postponed medical appointment, every holiday I spent alone because he was too busy. Then I write down what I need: respect, honesty, consideration, effort, mutuality. And finally, I write the sentence I know will change everything. I am not your bank. I go to bed with the notebook still open on the table. Sleep comes slowly, but when it finally does, it's deeper than it has been in weeks. Friday morning, Dylan texts me at 9:14 a.m. Need an answer today. Did you talk to the bank? I stare at the screen. My heart is pounding. My first instinct is to call him immediately, to avoid confrontation through a text message. But then I remember Rita's advice. Write it down first, she said. Make sure you say what you actually mean, not what you think will cause the least conflict. So instead of calling, I open the notebook and read over what I wrote. My hands are still trembling, but there's a steadiness inside me that wasn't there before. I sit down and begin to type. Dylan, I've thought long and hard about your request. I understand that buying a condo is important to you and Amber, and I'm glad you're at a stage in your life where you're planning for your future. But I need to be very clear about something. I cannot and will not take out a $60,000 loan for you. This is not because I don't love you. It's because I have spent the last 15 years sacrificing my own security for your education and your opportunities, and I have reached a point where I simply can't give any more without destroying my own future. I sold our house so you could go to college. I took out a $95,000 business loan to cover your last year of tuition. I have worked myself to exhaustion building and maintaining this business, often at the expense of my health and any hope of retirement. I am 56 years old. I do not own a home. I do not have a retirement fund. If I take on another massive loan using my business as collateral, I will be working into my 70s just to pay it off. One bad year, one lost contract, one health issue, and I could lose everything. I cannot take that risk. What hurts me most is not that you asked, it's that you seem to feel entitled to this. It's that when I try to talk about my concerns, you call me dramatic. It's that you let me travel 12 hours on 3 buses to attend a graduation ceremony that you knew happened the day before, and you didn't bother to correct me or apologize. Dylan, I love you more than anything. That has always been true. But love does not mean saying yes to every request, no matter how unreasonable. Love does not mean bankrupting myself so you can have a nicer zip code. So here is my boundary, clearly stated. I am not your bank. I am your mother. I will always be here to support you emotionally. I will always cheer for your successes and pray for your well-being. But financially, I have done what I can, more than I should have. That chapter is closed. This decision is not up for negotiation, and it is not an invitation to argue. It is a boundary I am setting for my own survival and self-respect. I hope one day you will understand this, even if you're angry right now. Mom. I read the message 3 times. Then, with my heart pounding so hard it feels like it might burst through my chest, I hit send. For a long time, nothing happens. No 3 dots, no immediate outrage. Just silence. Hours pass. I go through my day half present, waiting for the explosion I know is coming. Waiting for the boy I raised to tell me I'm selfish, ungrateful, crazy. By the time the sun starts to set, my phone finally buzzes. I look down and see his name on the screen. My fingers feel numb as I open the message. Wow, didn't realize you felt this way. Guess I know where we stand. Forget the loan. We'll figure it out without you. I stare at the words until they blur. There's no, I love you. No, I understand. Just cold, clipped sentences that might as well be from a stranger. But underneath the hurt, there's something else. Something small but unmistakable. Relief. For the first time in years, I've said no. And the world didn't end. The sky didn't fall. I'm still here. And that's when it hits me. This was never just about the money. This was about reclaiming my life. The silence that follows my message to Dylan is deafening. Days turn into a week. 1 week becomes 2. No calls, no texts, nothing. At first, the silence hurts. Every time my phone buzzes, I check it with a small flutter of hope that maybe he's ready to talk, to understand, to apologize. But it's always someone else, a client, Rita, a spam call. I tell myself this is what I wanted. I set a boundary. Boundaries have consequences. But knowing that doesn't make it easier when I pass by the photos on my refrigerator. Dylan at age 5 holding his first baseball glove. Dylan at 12 on our last family vacation before Kevin left. Dylan at 19 grinning outside his college dorm. Rita checks on me almost daily. How are you holding up? She asks during one of her visits. I'm okay, I say, and to my surprise, I mean it. It hurts, but I don't regret what I said. Good, she says firmly, because you did the right thing, and eventually he'll realize that too. I want to believe her, but as the weeks stretch on, I start to accept that Dylan may never realize it. He may stay angry, he may cut me out of his life completely, and as painful as that is, I know I can't go back to the way things were. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, 6 weeks after I sent that message, my phone rings. The name on the screen makes my heart stop. Dylan. I stare at it for 3 rings, my hand frozen. Part of me wants to let it go to voicemail, to protect myself from whatever anger or manipulation might be waiting on the other end. But the mother in me, the part that will never stop loving him, can't ignore the call. I answer. Hello? Mom. His voice sounds strange, tight. Can we talk? Of course, I say carefully. There's a pause, and I hear him take a breath. Can we meet? In person? I'm in Thornbury. I'm actually parked outside your apartment. My pulse quickens. You're here? Right now? Yeah, I drove down this morning. I should have called first, but I wasn't sure you'd agree to see me. I walk to the window and look down at the parking lot. Sure enough, there's a car I don't recognize. A modest sedan, not Amber's silver Audi. Dylan is sitting in the driver's seat, phone pressed to his ear. Give me 5 minutes, I say. I'll come down. I hang up and take a moment to steady myself. My hands are shaking. I don't know if I'm nervous, scared, or hopeful. Maybe all 3. When I step outside, Dylan gets out of the car. He looks thinner than I remember. There are shadows under his eyes, and his usually neat hair is slightly disheveled. He's wearing jeans and a plain t-shirt, not the polished professional look I've grown used to seeing in his social media photos. Hi, he says quietly. Hi. We stand there awkwardly for a moment, 2 people who used to know each other so well and now feel like strangers. Do you want to come inside? I ask. He nods. Yeah, thanks. We walk up to my apartment in silence. I unlock the door and lead him into the small living room. He glances around, taking in the worn couch, the cheap coffee table, the stack of bills on the counter. I wonder if he's seeing it the way I do now. Proof of a life lived on the margins, always one emergency away from disaster. Do you want coffee? Water? I offer. No, I'm okay. He sits down on the edge of the couch, hands clasped between his knees. I sit in the chair across from him and wait. This is his meeting, his apology, if that's what this is. I'm not going to make it easier for him. He stares at the floor for a long moment before finally speaking. Amber and I broke up. I wasn't expecting that. Oh, I'm sorry. He laughs bitterly. Are you, though? I don't answer. The truth is, I'm not sorry, but I'm not going to say that out loud. It happened about 3 weeks ago, he continues, after we couldn't get the condo. She said I was financially immature and that she couldn't see a future with someone who didn't have family support. She meant money, obviously. She meant that her parents would help us buy property and cars and whatever else, and my family wouldn't. He looks up at me, and there's something raw in his expression. She said, if your own mother won't even help you, that says something about you. The words hang in the air between us. I feel a flash of anger on his behalf, but I keep my voice neutral. That must have hurt. Yeah, it did. He rubs his face with both hands. But you know what hurt more? Realizing she was right. Not about you, but about me. I had become someone who expected handouts, who felt entitled to things I hadn't earned, who treated my own mother like an ATM machine. My throat tightens, but I stay quiet. I didn't see it at the time, he says, his voice cracking. I really didn't. I thought I was just asking for help, the way kids ask their parents for help. But after Amber left, I started thinking about everything. And Mom, I realized how messed up it all was. He stands up and starts pacing, too agitated to sit still. I let you travel 12 hours to a graduation that already happened. I knew it was Sunday when I texted you Saturday. And I didn't correct you because I didn't want you there. I didn't want you meeting Amber's parents and her friends because I was ashamed. The admission feels like a knife sliding between my ribs. Ashamed of me? Yeah. His voice breaks. Ashamed of where we came from. Ashamed of the fact that you clean buildings for a living while Amber's dad runs a construction company. Ashamed that I didn't grow up in German village or go on ski trips or have a trust fund. And that's so messed up, Mom, because you're the one who made sure I had anything at all. Tears are streaming down his face now. He sinks back onto the couch, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. I'm so sorry, he says, voice muffled. I'm so sorry for all of it. For the graduation. For asking you for that money. For the way I spoke to you. For believing Dad when he said you were controlling. God, Mom, I can't believe I said that to you. I'm crying too now, silent tears that I don't bother to wipe away. Dylan, I say softly. Look at me. He lifts his head. His eyes are red and swollen. I need to ask you something, I continue. And I need you to be completely honest. Did your father tell you to ask me for that money? He flinches. What? No. Why would... Dylan. The truth. He's quiet for a long moment. Then he nods slowly. He suggested it. He said you owed it to me, that you'd made my childhood about your martyrdom, and the least you could do was help me get started in life. He made it sound so reasonable. And did he ask you for money too? Dylan closes his eyes. Yeah. A few weeks after you said no. He said he had a business opportunity and needed a $15,000 loan. He promised he'd pay me back with interest in 6 months. Did you give it to him? Yeah. His voice is barely audible. I took it out of my savings, the money I'd been putting away for the condo down payment. And has he paid you back? Dylan shakes his head. He stopped answering my calls about 2 weeks ago. I drove to the address he gave me, and it's a motel. He's not there anymore. I think he's gone. I close my eyes and take a deep breath. Part of me wants to say, I told you so. Part of me wants to rage at Kevin for poisoning our son all over again. But Dylan doesn't need that right now. He needs his mother. Come here, I say. He looks up, confused. Come here, I repeat, opening my arms. He stands up slowly and walks over to me. I pull him into a hug, the kind of hug I used to give him when he was 12 and the world felt too big and scary. He's taller than me now, but he folds into my arms like a child, and I feel his whole body shake with sobs. I'm so sorry, Mom, he says over and over. I'm so sorry. I know, I whisper, stroking his hair. I know you are. We stay like that for a long time. Eventually, his crying slows, and he pulls back, wiping his face with the back of his hand. I don't expect you to forgive me, he says. I don't even know if I deserve it. But I needed to tell you that I see it now. I see what you did for me. I see how much you gave up, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that. I take his face in my hands, the way I used to when he was little. Dylan, listen to me. I don't need you to spend your life trying to earn my love. You already have it. You've always had it. That's not the problem. Then what is? The problem is that love without respect isn't sustainable. I can love you with every fiber of my being, but if you don't respect me, if you don't value my time, my work, my sacrifices, then we can't have a real relationship. Do you understand? He nods slowly. I do. I really do. Good. Because I meant what I said in that message. I'm not your bank. I'm your mother. And I need you to treat me like one. I will, he says. I promise. And if I mess up, when I mess up, I want you to call me on it. Don't let me slide back into old patterns, please. I nod. Okay. But Dylan, I need you to understand something else too. I made mistakes. I gave you everything without teaching you the value of working for things. I protected you from consequences because I didn't want you to suffer the way I did. And in doing that, I didn't prepare you for the real world. You did your best, he says. My best wasn't always right, I reply, and I need to own that. But going forward, things are going to be different. I can't keep bailing you out. I can't keep putting your needs above my own survival. I've done that for 15 years, and I don't have anything left to give. I don't want you to, he says earnestly. Mom, I have a job. I make decent money. I can stand on my own 2 feet. I should have been doing that all along. Can you, though? I ask gently. Because a month ago, you were asking me for $60,000. You gave your father $15,000 that you'll never see again. That doesn't sound like someone who's managing well financially. He winces. You're right, I'm not. I've been living beyond my means, trying to keep up with people who have way more money than I do. I leased a car I couldn't afford. I go out to expensive dinners. I buy things I don't need. I've been acting like I'm rich when I'm not even close. So what are you going to do about it? He takes a deep breath. I already returned the car lease. I'm driving a used Honda now. I moved out of my expensive apartment into a place with 2 roommates. And I've been meeting with a financial advisor at my bank. I'm learning how to budget, how to save, how to live within my means. It's humbling, but it's necessary. I feel a swell of pride. That's really mature, Dylan. It's what I should have been doing all along, he says. I got so caught up in this idea of what success was supposed to look like. I thought it meant having the right address, the right car, the right girlfriend. And I lost sight of what actually matters, which is being a good person, he says simply. Being someone you can be proud of. Being someone I can be proud of. We talk for hours after that. I tell him about the business, about how hard it's been, about my fears for the future. He listens, really listens, in a way he hasn't in years. He asks questions. He expresses concern. He offers to help in small ways, like updating my website or helping me digitize my invoicing system. I'm good with that stuff, he says. Let me do something useful for once. I agree. Not because I need the help, but because I can see how much he needs to feel like he's contributing. Before he leaves, he hugs me again. Can I come visit next month? He asks. Just to hang out. No agenda. No favors. Just spend time with you. I'd like that, I say. As I watch him drive away, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Hope. Not the desperate, clinging hope that everything will magically go back to the way it was, but a quiet, steady hope that maybe, just maybe, we can build something new, something healthier, something built on respect instead of obligation. That night, I call Rita and tell her everything. How do you feel? She asks. I think about it for a moment. Cautiously optimistic, I say. He said all the right things. But I need to see if he follows through. Words are easy, actions are what matter. Smart woman, Rita says approvingly. Don't let your guard down too fast. He needs to earn your trust back. I know, I say, and I'm not going to make it easy. But Rita, I think he really meant it. I think he finally sees what I've been trying to show him for years. I hope you're right, she says. You deserve that. You deserve a son who appreciates you. After we hang up, I sit in the quiet of my apartment and let myself feel everything. The pain of the last few months, the relief of today's conversation, the uncertainty of what comes next. But most of all, I feel proud. Proud of myself for setting boundaries. Proud of myself for refusing to be treated like a bank. Proud of myself for finally putting my own needs first. It took me 56 years to learn how to say no, but better late than never. And as I close my eyes that night, I think about the message I sent Dylan all those weeks ago, the one that changed everything. I am not your bank. I am your mother. Those words saved me. And maybe, just maybe, they saved him too. 3 months have passed since Dylan sat in my living room and apologized. 3 months of cautious rebuilding, of small steps forward and occasional steps back, of learning how to be mother and son in a way that's healthier than what we had before. He's kept his promises mostly. He calls me every Sunday evening, not to ask for anything, but just to talk. He tells me about his work, about the financial advisor meetings, about the ways he's learning to manage money. He asks me about the business, about my week, about whether I've done anything nice for myself lately. That last question always makes me smile because the answer is slowly becoming yes. Last month, I went to the dentist for the first time in 4 years. I got the crown I'd been putting off. It cost $200, and I paid for it without guilt, without wondering if I should save that money just in case. Dylan needed something. 2 weeks ago, Rita convinced me to take a Saturday off, a full Saturday where I didn't work, didn't check emails, didn't worry about schedules or payroll. We drove to Lake Erie and walked along the beach. We had lunch at a little seafood restaurant. We laughed about nothing in particular. It was the most relaxed I'd felt in years. "You look different," Rita said as we were driving home. "Different how?" "Lighter," she said, smiling. "Like you've put down something heavy you'd been carrying for too long." She was right. I had. Dylan comes to visit on a Saturday in early December. He arrives in the afternoon, driving that used Honda Civic he mentioned, carrying a grocery bag. "I brought ingredients," he announces as he walks into my apartment. "I'm making dinner. And before you argue, this is not me trying to pay you back or prove anything. I just want to cook for my mom. Is that okay?" I laugh. That's okay. He makes spaghetti and meatballs, nothing fancy, but he puts effort into it. He sets my small table with mismatched plates and napkins, pours us both water in the glass cups I've had for 20 years. As we eat, he tells me about his life. The roommates are good guys. The smaller apartment is actually nicer than he expected. He's been packing lunches for work instead of eating out, and he's surprised by how much money that saves. "I opened a retirement account," he says almost shyly. "Nothing big. I'm just contributing 5% of each paycheck. But the financial advisor said it's important to start now, even if it's small." "That's really smart, Dylan," I say. "I'm proud of you." He looks down at his plate. "I wish I'd learned this stuff earlier. I wish someone had taught me. I wish I had taught you," I say honestly. "But I was so focused on giving you everything that I forgot to teach you how to work for things. That's on me." "It's on both of us," he says. "But we're fixing it now. That's what matters." After dinner, we sit on the couch and he pulls out his phone. "Can I show you something?" "Sure." He opens his photo gallery and scrolls to a picture. It's a screenshot of a savings account. The balance reads $4,200. "This is my emergency fund," he says. "I've been adding to it every month. The goal is to get to $10,000 within 2 years. That way, if something happens, if I lose my job or have a medical emergency or the car breaks down, I won't have to ask anyone for help. I can handle it myself." I feel tears prick my eyes. "Dylan, that's incredible. I want you to know that I'm serious about this," he says, looking at me. "About being independent, about respecting your boundaries, about not treating you like a bank." I squeeze his hand. "I can see that, and it means everything to me." We're quiet for a moment, and then he says, "I need to tell you something else. I've been going to therapy." "Therapy?" He nods. "After everything that happened with Amber and Dad, I realized I had a lot of stuff to work through. Entitlement, shame about where I come from, resentment I didn't even know I had. It's been really helpful. My therapist has been helping me understand why I acted the way I did and how to do better." "That takes courage," I say. "I'm really proud of you for doing that." "She suggested I invite you to a session sometime," he says. "If you're comfortable with that. She said it might help us communicate better, work through some of the hurt. But no pressure. I know it's a lot to ask." I think about it for a moment. The idea of sitting in a therapist's office talking about our relationship feels vulnerable and scary. But it also feels like a chance to truly heal, not just put a Band-Aid over the wounds. "I'd be willing to try that," I say. His face lights up. "Yeah? Yeah, let's do it." Before he leaves that evening, he hugs me tightly. "Thank you for not giving up on me," he says. "Thank you for loving me enough to say no." "Thank you for hearing it," I reply. As I watch him drive away, I feel something settle in my chest. It's not quite closure. We're not done rebuilding, but it's peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you stood up for yourself, even when it was terrifying, even when it meant risking the person you love most. That night, Rita calls to check in. How was the visit? Good, I say, and I mean it. Really good. He's changing, Rita. I can see it. And you? She asks. How are you? I smile. I'm good too. Better than I've been in years, actually. You should be, she says warmly. You fought for yourself. That's not easy. Most people never do it. After we hang up, I walk over to the refrigerator and look at the photos stuck there with magnets. Dylan at 5, Dylan at 12, Dylan at 19. And next to them, a new photo. One Dylan texted me last week from his smaller apartment, grinning at the camera with his 2 roommates, looking genuinely happy. I run my finger over the images and I realize something I didn't expect. I'm not mourning the old relationship anymore. The one where I gave and gave until there was nothing left. The one where love meant saying yes, even when it destroyed me. That relationship needed to die so this new one could live. One built on mutual respect, healthy boundaries, and real communication. I pour myself a cup of tea and sit by the window, looking out at the quiet street below. Thornbury is small. My apartment is modest. My business isn't going to make me rich. But for the first time in decades, I feel like my life belongs to me. I think about the woman I was 6 months ago, exhausted, taken for granted, sacrificing herself on an altar of unconditional love that had become unconditional servitude. And I think about the woman I am now, still tired sometimes, still worried about money, but no longer willing to erase herself for anyone else's comfort. The lesson I've learned is this: love doesn't require self-destruction. In fact, real love, the kind that sustains and nourishes, requires boundaries. It requires the courage to say, I love you, but I also love myself, and I can't destroy myself to save you. I've also learned that being a mother doesn't mean being a martyr. It means raising a child who can stand on their own 2 feet, who understands the value of hard work, who treats others, especially those who love them, with respect and gratitude. I failed at that for years. I protected Dylan from consequences, gave him everything without teaching him to work for it, and in doing so, I didn't prepare him for the reality of life. But failure isn't final if you learn from it. And we're both learning now. My phone buzzes with a text. It's Dylan. Made it home safe. Thanks for today, Mom. Love you. I smile and type back. Love you too. Drive safe. See you next month. Next month. Not next week. Not tomorrow. A healthy distance that gives us both space to live our own lives while still staying connected. I set the phone down and take a sip of tea. Outside, the first snow of winter is starting to fall, soft white flakes drifting past the streetlights. I watch it for a while, thinking about new beginnings, about second chances, about the power of a single word: no. It took me 56 years to learn how to say it. It cost me my house, my savings, my youth, and almost my relationship with my son. But in the end, it saved us both. And that, I think, is worth everything.